Well, welcome back. Our next episode here of The Awakened Stranger. And again, this is Cody, and today we're sitting with Sandra. And Sandra, I'm going to have you give us an introduction to who you are and share some of your life experiences. We've had a little bit of conversations through text, and so I understand that you've been awakened for most of your life, and I would love to hear all of your life stories and kind of where you're at, how you got here, and go ahead and give us a quick introduction of who you are and what brought you to this point.
Okay. Thank you, Cody. One, for doing this. It is me finding you when I found you was like, oh my God, it's happening.
Yeah.
And you'll understand that more as I go down the line, but I'm just so grateful for you sharing your experiences, because many of us who have been awakened, while we didn't have these platforms and stuff like that to do that, we totally had to do it by ourselves. So this is a wonderful, wonderful thing you're doing. So I wanted to thank you.
No,
but
that's good. Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but yeah, I kind of felt like I was alone for a long time and just trying to figure out how to learn what thought I knew, and so, yeah, I've found a lot of people like you that have gone through this for a long time that didn't know what to do, who to talk to, kind of what was happening. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to hear your experiences.
Oh, me too. I'm excited to finally tell them, really, like in one story. So I'm going to start with, I was born in Pittsburgh. Okay, I was born an identical twin into a very dysfunctional family. I was the black sheep. On some level, still am. I had a younger sister and two younger brothers. I was a scapegoat and totally abused and attacked by my family members. The only immediate family member I have that hasn't personally tried to destroy my life is my oldest brother. And that has been a big thing. So that was what I was born into. And then 5 or 6 years old, it was molestation. Then I was raped when I was 13 years old by gunpoint. Raped again when I was 15, a date rape that resulted in my first child. Harassed by, a lot of this has to do with sexuality with me. I mean, every friend had a family member that tried to do stuff to me. Every job I worked at, I mean, I don't know how many jobs I've quit because I didn't have the self-worth to stick up for myself, because I didn't have a family that told me that I was worth anything. So I had a father who was adopted, and he was adopted into a very wealthy family. My grandfather was the second in charge at U.S. Steel. He was a metallurgist and discovered many, many types of metals. But he didn't feel loved from his mother. He didn't have any divine feminine. And so when me and my twin sister were born, we were the first. We ruined his life. That's how he thought about us. Like, he needed my mom to love him, and when you have twins, that doesn't happen. And he blamed us for it. And my mom was a control freak, still is. I went through most of this alone, because I didn't even have my family to talk to, not even my twin, because she did horrendous things to me. And all this time, though, even through all of that, it was like I knew that all this crazy stuff couldn't be happening to one person for no reason. And I was always able to see other people's pain. And so it was easy for me, even though they hurt me, it was easy for me to let it go, because I knew it wasn't about me from a very early age. I got married when I was 28, but I had already had 2 children. the first child, my parents stole off of me, and that's a whole nother story. Yeah, it was a lot, but I don't remember dwelling on it. I didn't remember a lot of my early childhood years, because my subconscious blocked it out because of the stuff that was happening. I was emotionally damaged, programmed by my childhood, and the way I was treated by those who were supposed to love me. After many repeated lessons, like looping over and over, like me just picking the same situations just to bring me back to that same point, to help me find the things that were blocking me. I started searching. I was probably around 21, 22 when I started reading like every self-help book I could possibly imagine. And I still didn't remember at that time about being molested. So I just started reading. And as I was reading these books, it was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm reading what I know, what I believe, but the rest of the world around me just can't see. I read Conversations with God, Many Lives, Many Masters, so many things that helped me realize that I wasn't crazy.
I've spent so long just saying that I feel crazy as this all comes. So to hear that other people have that same thought is I guess not good, but definitely there's a lot of us that have that same feeling. So yeah, continue if you can.
Every single, I think one of us feels that way, that we were alone in our feelings, and you couldn't trust anybody because of the way you were already shown. Like, I could definitely not share like things I knew. I knew things without knowing how I knew them, but I didn't tell anybody that. It wasn't until I was around 25, I think I was 25, 26, when we and my siblings like started waking up to us being molested. We started remembering stuff, having flashbacks, things like that. But we had moved to Rhode Island from Pittsburgh because my dad lost his job at the steel mill. And I think my subconscious started feeling safe the longer I stayed away from Pittsburgh, that it just started allowing us to remember stuff. But I didn't have a good relationship with my twin sister. She ended up being a heroin addict, and addiction, and she was in and out of jail. Yet I was the only one who supported her, gave her money, went to see her, made her food. I couldn't do to people what they did to me. I just couldn't. I didn't stop talking to anybody. My mom and my family, they were constantly not talking to me, finding an excuse to not talk to me. I went years without talking to my mom because I didn't clean up the kitchen one day at my own house after we had a picnic for 4th of July. Literally, that was her excuse. I wasn't a good host. So I really started healing, really understanding that there was more of this out there when MySpace, you remember MySpace?
I do, yeah, the original.
Yeah, and I found a lot of it was focusing more on healing their pain and trauma. I went to psychologists. I did EMDR therapy. I took 4 different energy healing modality. I'm certified in 4 different types of healing energy. I studied with a shaman for 8 years. But then I got married when I was 28. Had 2 more children. And then as soon as I got married, my husband became a different person. It was like I no longer mattered. I didn't know that he grew up, because he didn't really talk about his family, in a mentally abusive family. His dad was a drunk, and they had no money. Like, his mother used to make him go to the dentist and get teeth pulled and worked on without any Novocaine or pain. I mean, it was bad, but he didn't want that for his kids. So he felt like work was more important. I was just emotionally abandoned, and so I left. I mean, it took a lot. There's more to that, but I actually listened to myself and started feeling good about my decisions, because I knew, like, I had been meditating, and I knew from what I was going through in my life that I learned all this from my parents and my surroundings. And I did not want my children to grow up and think that that was normal. And it wasn't. And, Shelby was probably 8. Maxwell was 12 when I got divorced. Maxwell took it a little hard because he's a little older, and he was like really intuitive. He was like me, felt everything. He just didn't understand why, because we didn't fight, because we didn't have a relationship. And he kept saying, Mom, but why? You and Dad, you don't fight. I said, Maxwell, we don't do anything. We don't do anything. You do stuff with your dad. I do stuff with you and Shelby, but we don't ever do stuff together. I know you're not going to understand this right now, but you will when you get older, and you'll thank me. I said, because this is not what a marriage is supposed to be. It's supposed to be, a team effort, and it's not. And so that was really hard to watch my kids go through. But I ended up going on Facebook. It had just been created, and I found this group called Earth Angels. And it was like how you feel. I felt exactly how you are feeling right now. I found my family. I found my tribe. These people are me. Every single one in the group felt the exact same way, had the same type of experiences. I didn't know too much about collectives back then. I just knew that there was a whole bunch of people out there all over the world that felt the same way I did. And the lady who created the group, her name was Sarah, and we immediately became friends. And she was kind of my mentor for a little while, but then we started working together. We were doing master classes. We were doing all kinds of spiritual work calls. I mean, we talked to people all over the world together. And I finally felt happy for the first time in my life, like literally happy. And that there was, like, my life was going to go towards the better. Like, I started letting my guard down. And now this is where I'm going to get emotional, and I'm sure you're going to too. I was at work. I had spent all day with the kids at the beach, and I was at my second job. It was a mile down the road, and my ex-husband was supposed to be home. He wasn't supposed to take a shift that night because it was mine to take a shift, and he didn't tell me. And so I told Shelby she could have a sleepover, but she was 13. Her brother was 15. It wasn't a big deal, but I wouldn't have let her have a sleepover. Well, they were talking to some boys on Facebook, and Maxwell was being a 15-year-old brother and didn't want them in his room. He was trying to play video games, and one of the boys told her to just pretend to hang herself. Mm-hmm. And she died. And I wasn't there. That's all I could think. I was like 1 mile down the road. And my ex-husband, who took the shift, when we were called back in the hospital when they pronounced dead, both him and my son Maxwell fell. And I just remember thinking, I can't do it. I can't do it too. If I fall apart, none of us are making it through this. And so I just couldn't. I could not lose it too.
Wow.
And so I put my grief on hold. But my entire family quit speaking to me because they didn't like how I was surviving.
That's not support, is it? That's tough.
So after, it was about, I don't know, a year and a half until Maxwell went through counseling, therapy, and I made sure he was okay. I had met somebody, and I don't know why he even took me on, because that was a job. Trust me.
You're not a project. You're not something that had to be taken on. I hope you don't feel that way.
I was back then. I had no job. I had nowhere to live. And I didn't have it. I didn't have anybody. And he did. And he had just, his mom almost died of, she has diabetes. And she went into diabetic coma. And so he had to give up his apartment, and he moved into her 1-bedroom apartment to help take care of her. And I stayed on the couch. And then his dad had moved to California because that's where they were from, because his mom was sick and they needed help taking care. And he had called Paul and asked him if he wanted to go to California. And he asked me, he's like, "You want to go to California?" And I said, "Absolutely," but I had to go talk to my kids. And I did. And they said, "Mom, you haven't done anything for yourself. You have to go. We don't want you to go, but we know you have to. So go." And that was really hard. But it took me 7 years. So I was nothing. I couldn't feel anything. I bought a tattoo gun, was tattooing myself, kind of like cutting, just to feel something. I could feel nothing. And this is coming from somebody who could feel everything from everybody. And it was probably three years. And it was a full moon. I remember it was coming up on her 3rd anniversary. And I had taken the day off of work. And I was talking to my ex-husband, and he was saying that he felt the same way. And I said, "This isn't any way to live. This just isn't any way to live." Because everything that I had been stopped. I couldn't, I was having anxiety attacks so bad, and I couldn't relax. I couldn't focus. And I went outside, and it was a full moon, and I said, whatever I need to see, whatever that needs to happen to help me get through this, show me it, because I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. I have other children who I can't be here for. And I just let it go. And I think it was two nights later I had a dream that wasn't a dream. And I've had premonitions before. This wasn't a premonition. It was like I remember I was sitting in a car. It was idling. It was beautiful and sunny. It was like I was looking at a recess, like a school recess with like basketball courts, and there was hopscotch and all kinds of stuff there. And I saw Shelby. And she was just so happy. I had my window rolled down, and I knew that she was gone in this, whatever it was. I knew. And I just sat there in awe. Like, I'm so thankful I'm getting to see her like this. I just couldn't believe it. And I just sat there and watched her. And all of a sudden, she turned around, ran up to the car, put her chin on her hand, and leaned in and said, "Mom, it's time to go." And gave me a kiss. I woke up hysterical. And I was telling Paul what had happened. I said, I was like focused on it's time to go. Like, what was she trying to tell me? And Paul's like, "Sandy, you literally just asked to see what you needed to see to move forward. You were sitting in a car that is something that's supposed to make you go forward, and you were idling. And that's what you were at. You were in an idle, unable to go backwards or forwards. And she told you got to see that she's fine, that she's happy, that she's with you. It's time to move on. It's time to go forward." And I ended up finding a therapist up in California and helped me get through it. You know what I mean? Like, I got to talk about my family to somebody who didn't know my family and explain how I was feeling, and I started getting better. But it wasn't until I came home. I moved back home almost 4 years ago and I realized, like, my mom, she's not a strong person. She tries to act like it, and she can't deal with anything that's emotional. And so at the time, I couldn't understand why nobody could realize that I was just surviving. It took every ounce of me to get through a day. And they're judging me if I'm around them and I cry. Why are you crying? Like, it was like they didn't want to deal with my pain, so they just kept pushing me away. But then if I didn't care enough. Oh, shouldn't she be more hysterical? I mean, that's literally the stuff. I mean, the day she died, I was outside crying, and my brother came. I mean, the next morning, there was a bunch of people at my mom's house. And he said, "Sandy, you got to stop this. You're really, really bothering Mom."
Yeah, that's no way to be when you've got to control your emotions in a way to support somebody else's insecurities. And I think that's kind of the help that we're putting out here with everybody, is being able to be a support system for each other, being able to hear other people's stories, and knowing that, yeah, you've gone through some very traumatic things in life, and sometimes you just need to be heard. And that's the space that we're creating here, is letting other people know. So, yeah, go ahead.
It's amazing. And so my I can't go into all the detail because we wouldn't have enough time. But when I tell you that my family did things, I think, to either make me go crazy or off myself, one or the other, because of stuff that had been done to me from my own immediate family, especially my younger sister and my twin sister. But I wasn't coming home with that attitude. I was coming home with the attitude that I was going to mend these no matter what. And me and my sister took some LSD. I already knew what was going to happen, and did other drugs, but she didn't do psychedelics. And I knew that she was going to be able to feel, because every time she used drugs, so she didn't feel. Well, LSD is going to make you feel. And I had already gone through that a few times. And so I needed her to feel. And that day we were able to heal our relationship. And we bought a house, and me and Anna, when we were little kids, we used to sit Indian style and say we couldn't wait till we got old. And old was like my age, 54. Like, we knew somehow that was when things were going to start really happening. And I remember talking about it. And so she was going to move in with me. She had got all of her stuff. It was the last day. We got everything packed and everything was here. And she stopped at the grocery store to come here, and she pulled in the driveway and died in my driveway.
No.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. At that point, I was like, this whole thing is a big game. Seriously, that's why I felt like this has got to be a game. This stuff doesn't happen all to one person in their life. And yeah, but right after me and Ann healed our relationship, I started actually seeking people. I started going live. This is before she passed away. Started going live and meeting people. And I had already known that I had gifts. I already knew, but the prominent gifts that I had were knowing. It's kind of like I was forward in time. I was ahead in time. And I knew things that I knew things that already happened and things that were going to happen. But at the time, the rest of the planet wasn't there yet. They couldn't understand what I was talking about, because every time they just didn't get it. But it would always come out later. Like, I've never registered to vote. I've known that choosing a side, either side, puts you in that system. And I never have registered. Ever. I don't talk politics. I don't like politics. I think they're nothing but, and it's all just a mind game. But I've predicted every president that was going to be, since I knew what a president was.
So as you've learned that, and we'll call it the matrix, right? As you learn that we're in the game, what things have you put into your life, and what have you helped yourself with to kind of understand how to win and to make things better for you?
Well, that's such a hard question. Because the more I knew, the more I learned, the more I realized that everything, like if I was going to give somebody a piece of advice right now who was waking up and let go of everything you've ever thought was true, all your belief systems, everything, they were given to you. You've never had an original thought, ever.
So in that spot, if I can share for just a moment,
Yeah.
I've kind of come to realize, and I've shared a little bit about, the truck that I drive. I got into buying this truck for off-road use. And doing that, I learned that there was some things needed to take my truck off-road. And a communications radio was something, especially doing like the Baja runs down in Mexico. And so I installed a ham radio in my truck, then learning that I had to have a license to be able to use those frequencies. So I spent 6 months learning about frequency and understanding now, as I look backwards, that a lot of the things that we go through in life, we're learning things to apply to a lesson that's coming in the future, right? Mm-hmm. And so I started understanding frequency, and what kind of clicked for me, and again, I share a lot of analogies. I like to talk in ways that make sense to people in different parts of their life, right?
Me too. That's funny.
And it's kind of funny, right? The whole Bible's talked that whole way. But what I learned is our brain, in my opinion, is an antenna. It's just receiving a signal that's being broadcast through consciousness, and depending on where we're tuned into, and I share this with my daughters. If you want to listen to a country station in Utah, you turn it to 93.3 FM. That frequency is receiving the signal being broadcast from that tower, and you end up hearing country music. Right? You want to hear hip hop and rap or R&B, you turn it to 97.1 FM. And that frequency, those hertz, are a channel that's being broadcast on that frequency. And now both of them are being broadcast at the same time. The signal's out there in thousands of different signals all at once. It's a matter of what we're tuned into. And that's my belief, is our brain is just the antenna for consciousness. And as we tune into different frequencies, we hear different messages, or we're aware of different things. And so as we start learning how to tune our frequency and how to raise the vibration of our thoughts and our actions, that it allows you to then tune into a higher vibration. And I think that's what's coming on, is people are starting to realize that we do actually control our reality, we control our thoughts, and not that we're creating new thoughts, but we're allowing what we pay attention to. And as you start to be aware of what's coming in, that's things that I look at as, I had a conversation with my wife, and I'm like, how do you know what thought is yours and what thought's being placed in your mind? And she's like, what? Like, every thought is mine. I'm like, no, it's actually not. Like, you're being aware, you're being made aware of a thought, you're being made aware of a frequency. And if you engage in that frequency and you start thinking about it and you start following it, next thing you know, you're then now tuned into that radio station, and you're living that reality. So that would be my thought as we kind of move forward with this, is learning how to decide, or defer, wrong words, right? How to differentiate which is your thoughts, or which is something you want to entertain, versus something that is just being broadcast out there in the world and you're tuned into it because that's the vibration that you're sitting in. So like for me, I noticed if I'm scrolling on my phone and I'm flipping through some of the social media sites, I start seeing certain things that repeat patterns, and I'm like, oh man, like I must be in a low vibration because I'm seeing negative stuff. I'm seeing news articles. I'm seeing fear. I'm seeing people being scared. I'm seeing, people posting about car accidents, motorcycle accidents. I'm like, so I will consciously think about something that's of a higher vibration. Sometimes I'll just open a picture on my phone and look at the beach so I can remember what it feels like to sit there and look at a sunset. And then I'll refresh my screen. I'll hit the home button again and reload the social media, and all of a sudden all of the content coming through my phone is different. And I've been very aware that our thoughts truly are creating our reality. And it's just, I don't know, I guess for me it seems an easier way to simplify how that's happening. But yeah.
Oh, it is. I use the radio station a lot. That's quite miraculous that you came up with that just from that. Mm-hmm. And another frequency that people don't realize is their own. Mm-hmm. I was shown this. Now I know you had your ego death through the mushrooms and all that kind of stuff. I went through them through real life experiences. But once I got through them, every one of them was a lesson. It helped me let go of all of the things that I was talking to myself, like what I thought about myself that was placed in my own head from other people. And I was like, that wasn't mine. I don't want that. I didn't choose it. I give it back. Mm-hmm. I let it go. But your voice, each individual's person's voice is their highest.
Yeah. Well, here's to kind of add to my frequency lesson that I've kind of learned myself, right? I'm in Utah, and getting into the ham radio and understanding certain frequencies, I had to have a license that allowed me to broadcast on certain channels. And I've been very aware that 144,000 is a frequency of consciousness, 144,000 hertz. And here in Utah, that frequency band of 144,000 hertz is very common in this area. And at first I thought it was kind of just a coincidence that I now am broadcasting. If I key up my mic in my truck and I'm talking to a random person driving down the street, my voice is being broadcast through the airwaves that is literally traveling across the planet in a matter of seconds. And I'm broadcasting on the frequency of 144,000 hertz. And it just, again, synchronicities line up for me a lot. But knowing that, and sometimes I would do that. I would not have anybody I was talking to, but I would key up my mic and I would just state, hey, I hope everybody's having a great day. I love you all. And just thank you for being you. And I knew that my voice was being broadcast out into the world, just like a radio station. And it was. I was on purpose, intentionally sending that signal out just to let my voice ring through the airwaves or through the solar system. Everything bounces off the planet. Your frequency leaves the earth, and you're getting it's spreading all the way through the atmosphere. And so, yeah, when you speak things, you're speaking into reality. You're speaking your truth. And as crazy as it sounds, right? That first post I put on TikTok with 212 followers was literally me quitting my job, being scared that I was going to create a business and just kind of unsure of what was happening. And if you put it that way, the frequency of my voice has resonated with enough people that we're now creating a community. We've launched a support system on Facebook. We've launched the podcast, the Awakened Stranger. We have a lot of people that are then reaching out, and the messages that are being sent back are nothing that I even anticipated. I was in my truck being a ball baby, crying that I just quit my job and I was scared because I had to go start a business and figure out how to pay my bills. And that message was way bigger than what I said, as people understood that frequency. And that's what I believe is we're connecting through frequency. We're connecting through hearing each other on a level that is not human. It's a soul level connection. And so, very cool stuff.
Oh, it's kind of like they call it I think it's the monkey effect. Scientists proved that a species divided by land and water, if one species of monkeys in one area learned something new, all other monkeys across the world started doing it.
Yeah, string theory, right? Everything's connected.
Everything. And so, like, one of the things that I talk a lot about is the still water container. And it's just the still water. It's the peace. It's everything that we've been taught, everything that we've been told, like, countries own their land. We own our property, but land, the earth, the ground you walk on cannot be owned. But that's the vibration that we put into the earth. Everybody living on this planet took Earth's sovereignty back, took it away by saying that they owned it, and it prevented Earth from running correctly. Just like if we do that to our bodies, our organs and stuff don't work properly. And I saw that, like, there's the web out there that connects everybody, the energetic web. There's also the iron in our blood connects to the iron in the earth. And when you place your hands and your feet on the earth that you stand on and claim it and give it back its sovereignty and ask for it to be connected to all other containers, it only takes 1% of the planet. And once it reaches that 1%, that 1% will connect through the iron web that runs through it like veins.
See, and I do a lot of studying, right? Prior to my experience, I wanted to understand what was coming from that mushroom experience. And I studied mycology quite a bit and understanding mycelium, right, that grows prior to the fruiting body of the mushroom. And the largest network of mycelium covers the planet. That's how all trees, all grass, all things living that have roots are connected through mycelium. And in one of my experiences, that was something that was made aware to me, that is how memories are held. That is how consciousness and creation communicate, is through mycelium. And that is, everything is held. And like you said, with the monkeys learning things, DNA holds information.
It holds memory.
And our bodies are not a 2-strand DNA, right? We're a 12-strand DNA system that is slowly being wakened up through the sun, through the energy that's being sent through our central sun and into our local sun.
We're 24. Our body's 12, but connected to our body is our energetic body. And within that energetic body, there's another 12.
Wow. See, I'm learning all this as I go. So it's like a crash course all of a sudden. So it's... Yeah.
It is, but you're right. And have you noticed I wanted to ask you this. When you started researching, I know you had the mushroom experience with your friends and you're like, well, this shouldn't really be just for recreation. You can do a lot with this. And then you started researching, but like, what was the key point before you started any kind of, using any type of psychedelics or anything like that? Like, was there something that happened? There's usually something that happens.
Yeah, and it was. So I somehow stumbled across the Law of One from Ra. I was working at a dealership. We were slow, and I was bored. And I can't recall where I first found it, but right, that the whole Law of One was given to some scientists back in the 70s. Where Laura was the gal that was the channel, and they would put her into a channeling state, and she would channel Ra, the entity from Ra, right, a 8th dimensional consciousness from the planet of Saturn, and that he was sharing information that they had learned through their civilization, right, and that caught my attention, and so for a couple weeks I had found their website. I believe it's the lawofone.info, and it's a free website, and you can go in and I was reading their daily or their journaling entries of everything that happened, the communication between the person, the interviewer, if you will, and I don't recall his name, but her and Carla, who was channeling Ra and the entity of Ra. And so I started reading about that and started understanding that things came from a bigger perspective. And it was categorized on the website almost like the scriptures are in the Bible, right? There's an annotation, and then it led to another conversation, and I was taking notes, I was reading things, I was journaling stuff, and I started then finding myself wanting to know more and more. So after I finished reading through all of the context of the Law of One, then that led me to the Gateway experience, and I started into meditations and hemisync and started learning how to sync up my brain. I then realized that I was astral projecting at night, that I had the ability to leave my body on purpose, and having a out-of-body experience was something that I could actually do when I wanted to, not just needing the experience of mushrooms. So I went into very intense meditations to the point where I would intentionally leave my body to go find my higher self. And this, again, like you say, when you talk about being crazy, I learned that as I left my physical body, I could, in the astrals, I could create a gym space. I was working out in a gym space, and I was coming back to my physical body and feeling the tension and the soreness in my body. I've since maintained the same weight, and my muscle tone in my body is increasing, and I'm not lifting weights. I'm not going to the gym, but I intentionally go to this mental, other realm of going to the gym and working out my light body, and my physical body is changing because of that.
And how do you do that? Like, how do you do that consciously?
So for me, right, and with the Gateway experience, they talk about getting yourself into different meditation states. So regular consciousness, right, C1 is what they call it. That's our awakening life. That's what we're living in right now, is consciousness level 1. And just through meditations, you start learning how to quiet the mind and get into a space where your body goes into a vibration. You start hearing different sounds and noises, and that's really the sound of your body, your consciousness getting prepared to leave your body. Most people get scared at that point. You move, right?
Does it sound like a train?
Yeah, a whistle, a loud storm. It sounds like a hurricane coming up through my head.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what's happening, is when the body goes to sleep and the mind stays awake, you're allowed to separate. And a lot of people have that fear, and that's our caller from yesterday. That was her fear, is she was knowing that she was leaving her body. She was scared she was not going to be able to come back. And we're attached through the silver cord. Our consciousness attaches to our body, so there's no fear of getting lost. You're always going to return back. You think about the body and you wake up. You're here. So I learned how to get into focus level 10, which is mind awake, body asleep. And as that progressed, and I would use those meditations to kind of continue to explore in that awareness, moving into focus 12, which is the expanded time. Focus 15 is the space of no time, where no time doesn't exist. You're just awareness. That led to even higher states of consciousness, or deeper states of meditation. Get up into the focus level 20s, 21, 25. And again, I would ask people just to do their own experience or do their own studying of it, but find the Gateway experience. There's plenty of YouTube videos.
I've read all about the Gateway experience, Project Blue Book, what was it, Blue Beam, and the Gateway experience, I'm very familiar with. HemiSync, I've been using HemiSync for a long time. I astral travel when I sleep all the time. It's not that I'm afraid to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. For some reason, I think I do it automatically sometimes. Like, there's times where I'll have an hour missing or 2 hours missing, and I don't remember where I was.
Well, that's what I've learned is, our soul doesn't have an understanding of time. There's no such thing as time outside of the physical body. And so when our body needs rest and our body's recovering, because that's an automatic system that has been set up, we rest, our body recovers, and our soul and our consciousness doesn't need rest, so it goes out and explores. It leaves our body every night. Every single person on this planet astral projects. Every single person is their consciousness leaves, and it goes and does its own thing. Your soul is experiencing life in different realms, different dimensions all the time. And it's just when we're awake in our physical form is when you're attached to this reality. So you start understanding that there's way more out there than just living on a little planet, going through life, going to work, and living your life as Cody. So it's a lot different.
Okay, so we think this is our reality. But I was shown what we actually are living two different realities. Our sleeping reality, which is our true home. It's where we're actually free. Our minds just shut down so we don't remember it. But when we go to sleep, we're going to a whole nother place. Yeah. I have a master guide that his name's Azra. He's never been in human form, and I go to the records. I was told in 2000, I didn't say this. So in 2011 is when I had my real first download that I knew something like, I always felt that I was meant for something more. I just didn't know exactly what it was. In 2011, I was cooking dinner, and my kids were at school, and it was around 3:00 in the afternoon, bright sunny day in August. I heard, "Go stand outside in the bare feet, in your bare feet in the sun." And I knew it was somebody. I knew it wasn't my voice. It wasn't even the voice in my head. I heard it. "Go stand outside bare feet in the sun." So I just go out my front door, and the sun's right there. And when I say if this could have been a movie, if you could have seen the beam, because I couldn't move. I was stuck, like kind of like sleep paralysis, but I couldn't move. My crown chakra opened up, and it was burning, but I was getting all this information, just downloads, and I could understand what was coming. It took days to process and really decode and stuff, but I was told that I was a key holder. You're also a key holder. There's only 13 of them on the planet. I knew none of this stuff. And for a long time, I still didn't know that it was actually true until right around 2 years ago when we had the full solar eclipse that we could see on this hemisphere, on this side. And I had like another awakening. And that was wild. I all of a sudden was told to start singing "You Are My Sunshine." So I did. And I opened TikTok, and the first video that pops up is all of Nigeria during that eclipse was singing "You Are My Sunshine."
Wow.
And I was like, that is freaking wild. Okay.
So
But yeah.
I want to do one thing, and I apologize to cut it off, but we're about to go down a whole nother path that I think is a whole new episode with understanding key holders and blueprint holders and grid workers and light workers, because that alone is something that has been made very aware to me really quick.
Yeah, I know. I knew you were as soon as I saw you.
I have to go pick my daughter up from the airport. So let's end this part of our conversation and pick up on part 2. Because I think that where we're headed right now is probably a whole nother hour. And so...
Yeah, and it's probably really needed. I mean, the backstories are needed, but what people need to prepare for is also needed.
But yeah, let me ask you my final question as we end this episode. But if, from what we've talked about, going through trauma, having loss, learning that you've been awakened your life, and then understanding kind of more of that other people are going through it, what would be your message that you'd like to leave on this episode of what somebody would take from what you know right now?
Everything you need to remember who you are, and that is light, is inside of you. You don't need hemi-sync. You don't need any of it. You need to sit in silence. Silence is the key. Blindfold yourself and sit there. Be still and listen. Because it's the hardest thing to do when you have that other voice in your head constantly talking. But when you finally know that voice isn't you, that's your ego. It's trying to disrupt you. It's trying to bring out the fears. You got stuff to do, blah, 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 blah. When you can get to the point where you can stop at any point and not have anything come in your mind, nothing, and be in that stillness, you can go to all those places. You can learn so much by just asking a question. Once you get to that space, and ask and you shall receive. You will get the answer.
I love it. Well, again, thank you so much for spending this time with us and for sharing your life experiences and your knowledge. And like I said, we are creating a community for people that are going through this great awakening. And there's a support group on Facebook. It's under the Awakened Stranger. And
you got that up and going too?
We've got that up and going. We've got some moderators that are helping keep that up, and it's not an invite only, but we're accepting people through just being cautious. We're making sure that's a very safe and secure group. So those of you that want to reach out, request the friend or the follow on the Awakened Stranger on Facebook, and we have that group going. We've got the podcast here that's now being launched through Spotify, through Amazon. It's also linked to YouTube. And so all of those platforms will be sharing the exact same information. And then again, for anybody listening, if you would like to share your experience and share your life, maybe your awakened stories or even just your life stories, I do have links on Instagram. So if you search The Awakened Stranger on Instagram, that'll be my profile there. I've shared a lot of the same TikTok videos to that platform, so that's there. But all the links on my Instagram page, The Awakened Stranger, or at The Awakened Stranger, will give you the link to the Spotify account. It'll give you the link to my Google account or my Google Calendar. So then you can go in and book your own time slot. And we're doing 3 phone calls a day. These episodes are being uploaded as quick as I can. And I would love to continue to learn and hear about other people's stories. So Sandra, thank you so much for the time that we spent together. Thank you for the information. And to our listeners, thank you for the support. And I truly appreciate every one of you. And I wish you all an amazing day. And I love you so much.
And I thank you, Cody. Thank you for everything you're doing. You're a wonderful person, and I can't wait to meet you in person one day.
We're going to build that. That's the other thing. I noticed I mentioned that yesterday. I put it into the universe. I want to build a healing and a retreat, a sanctuary, and my happy place is Maui. So that's the location that I'm going to figure out how to do it. I don't have a time frame. I don't have the budget for it right now, but I have the dream. And like I said,
and thank the universe for providing the budget.
Yes, so I know that all things needed will be provided, and I've learned how to just let go and let it flow, and that's coming. And we'll keep everybody updated as we start figuring out how to develop that. But again, it's a dream of mine. My favorite word is the word until, and I will keep doing this until everything is done. I will keep doing this until we have the retreat. I will keep doing this until everybody's been able to share their story. So thank you, and again, I love you guys so much.
Thank you.